you're well. I know you've talked to, ad nauseum over the years about your home run. I'm just curious how much, if at all, has your perspective on that night and that hit changed as you've gone from 5 years past it to 10 years and now obviously 20 years past it?
Well, perspective insofar as I don't think it really gets any easier as the years go on. I think I've heard time sort of has a healing effect, but for me, especially when this day comes by every year, it is difficult to kind of look back and the images for me and for, I'm sure a lot of people are still very vivid in their minds. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we do continue to honor them on this day. I don't think it gets, as I said, any easier as the years go by. But the positive effect is that you see a lot of outpouring of love and affection and the same sentiments that I think we had after the attacks in the city. So unfortunately, you do have to experience tragedy to see triumph and see courage and bravery. And so as much as I'm sad to see and remember the sad events, it's still uplifting to continue to reflect on the positive stories that did come out of that week. But again, it doesn't really get much easier. Thank you.
Next question will come from Mike Puma.
And Mike, we talked a little bit about this before, but I'm just wondering what it's been like to you you're a Hall of Famer, obviously, had so many big moments in your career, but just to have, so much of your legacy is that home run. I'm just wondering what that means to you.
Well, it means a lot to me. And I've said before, I've been blessed to have a few home runs and some big home runs that Nets fans recall and remember. But I think, and I've heard it say so eloquently by others, that even though the game really didn't have playoff implications, it wasn't a postseason game, it wasn't a World Series game, it had bigger effect and bigger emotional value, I guess, from all the fans and people in the city. So look, I'm honored. I've said recently, it'll always be with me. It'll be on my Hall of Fame plaque even when I'm gone, so my kids and grandkids and be able to go and remember it and look back and see, and hopefully they can put it in context and they can understand how important and how much of a cool thing, at least that I can think of, that people do remember me by. And so I'm honored. I think that, it's really a unique thing that people, again, look to that home run and the game itself. The fact that we were there and my teammates and everyone was together is also very important as well.
Jen Williams, your line is open. We'll come to you next.
Mike, a quick question for you. What do you think of current players like Pete Alonso being so active? It's almost his cause to give back to first responders. I don't want to say it's a passing of the torch, but what's your reaction to current players being so active in the peace healing process and helping to raise money for, victims of 9/11?
I think it's wonderful. I think shows the character that these guys have. It shows the way he was raised and values that he has as a human being, as a man. And it's a unique, we have a unique community here in New York. And I think that's something that has been emblematic of the players that have played in New York City down through the generations from 30s, 40s, 50s. We have always been, and again, I played in a few other markets, but here it's just we're approachable. We're part of the community, and even though the game has changed and we've gone on to have great livings and make good money, it's still the same. I mean, we're still people. People still look to us to relate to, because we do play almost every day. We're not, like the football guys or the basketball guys. We're like regular guys. I mean, and so those guys are amazing. They're tall, and the football guys are fast. And so I think that's why baseball fans relate more to the players, because we're like regular guys. We'll have a beer with you, and we're more visible and more amongst the people. And so I think it's great, because I think it's easy to get caught up in the fame and the fortune and become disconnected from reality. So I think it's wonderful that these guys really take it upon their backs and have really stuck their necks out and, gotten in trouble because they really wanted to make a statement to wear the hats. And I thought that was really wonderful and honorable. And so I wish them the best. I mean, they're in my prayers, and pray for them all the time for their success.
Yeah.
Matthew Oberson, your line is open.
Hey, Mike. After the home run, I'm sure you had lots of people come up to you, stop you, and share how important that moment was to them or how meaningful it was. I'm curious if you have one particular story that stands out, or one person's, story that's really stuck with you for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I was on a plane. I don't even remember where I was going, but I was sitting next to this guy. And I think on a plane, it's really the only time where you can sort of be in your own world and not necessarily have to engage someone next to you. You just put your headphones on, or you just kind of do your own thing. And if you don't say a word to someone next to you, it's not considered rude. But I sat next to this guy, and, in the last, when you're getting your bags and things are getting a little hectic, he just came up to me and literally said, look, I lost, close family member. I think it was brother in the World Trade Center. And he said, I can't tell you how much that home run meant to myself and my family. We were in a state of complete, mourning. And we just decided to go to the game. And it was really, really touching. And I was completely shocked and taken back, and then he was gone, almost like a ghost. And it was just crazy. I mean, that really stuck with me. And generally, just people just come up to me, and they are curious. I mean, they really want to know what I was thinking. Did I feel the pressure? And I said, number one, I wasn't thinking, no, fortunately. And number two, yeah, I mean, we do feel it, but you have to just believe in yourself. And as I've said many times, I've just prayed for strength, and I was fortunately, the good Lord gave me strength to get through the night. And but I think I really drew a lot of strength from my teammates, and then the fans, because my teammates were amazing, and I felt close to them during that week. And the fans, obviously, the energy, you could feel it. So as much as I was the one swinging the bat, there was a lot of people behind me helping me out. I felt that.
Thank you.
Mike, your next question comes from Marley Rivera.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for taking the time. Mike, you've had many incredible moments in your career and many incredible games. Where does that game sort of rank?
Wow. I think it's sort of compartmentalized in its own area, in my opinion. I don't think it can rank in the realm of importance as far as in the standings or the playoffs or all-star game or anything like that. I think it's just something that that I'm proud and honored and enjoy, and in a sense, in its own sort of little world in a way. And the way people that honor me year after year after year, and the comments that I get from, it's so tough, because when you're on social media, I wish I could tell everyone thank you. Of course, you can't do that. But I mean, the comments I get from people are so thoughtful and so sweet and so emotional that it really strikes my heart. And so it's just, it's overwhelming at times. But again, I thank everyone and feel everyone's pain who still, are mourning today, and continue to pray for them. Thank you.
Mark Roseman, your line is open.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned that it will be on your Hall of Fame plaque and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren can see it. But all the events surrounding it, whether it be you guys in the parking lot, collecting goods and that game, does the enormity of that moment, do you realize what that is historically for the game of baseball? And is it greater now than it was 20 years ago for you?
Well, I don't know if it's greater now. I think maybe what I've really enjoyed, or at least the community coming together, and the fact that all of us are major league players and we enjoy a certain amount of status because of that. But when we got back from Pittsburgh and Mr. Wilpon and Mr. Doubleday were like, look, if you guys can do whatever you want, if you want to help here, if you're not up to it emotionally and you want to stay home, that's fine too. And they gave us that option, and everyone just got involved and rolled up their sleeves. And then obviously myself and other guys felt we were best served if we were to go down to ground zero and sort of rally the troops and meet with the cops that were in the recovery and the control rooms and meet others that had survived that were in the hospital, and other guys did logistical things here with the supplies. And so I don't know if it takes on more significance, but I do think that it's a really nice, and it was just a really amazing memory to see the way we just, all of us came together and rolled up our sleeves. Unfortunately, we have to go through a tragedy to experience that, but I've never felt such community, and I've never felt such just people, regardless of where you were from or how much money you were making or what your role was on the team. We just came together, and that was something really special. It really is, and unfortunately, we don't see as much of it today. But that's what I recall many times.
Thanks, really appreciate it, and thanks more importantly for helping heal New York at a time when we needed it.
Thank you. It's very kind.
Mark Ernay, your line is open.
Hey, Mike, thanks for doing this. I'm just curious to know your thoughts, observations about anything specific that you've seen so far today since you woke up this morning.
That's a good question. I think the day always has a certain amount of reverence to it. It always takes on a little bit of solemnness, I guess is the word. It was really interesting and touching to see some of the ceremonies down at Ground Zero. Always, every time that this day does come on the calendar, that the families go down there. I think it's very important to not only recall, remember, and reflect, but also to educate the next generation and teach them what transpired. I don't know why it transpired, or obviously you can get into all kinds of discussions on that front, but I think the general lesson should be that life is precious, and life could be short, and you have to love the people around you every day, because we know and we've experienced that it can end very quickly. And the sadness of that was relevant and prevalent that week. So I hope that that's kind of the message that we learn in that terrorism and any sort of fundamentalism is just, there's no future in that. It's conversion has to come through the heart, not through the sword, at least in my opinion. But I just hope we can grow and become a better world and just try to learn from that tragedy.
Mike, your final question will come from Jerry Beach.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you. I have a question about the post game. I remember reading you went on the radio with your friend Eddie Trunk on NEW, I think it was, and played a hard rock records for a few hours. How did that come about? And was that planned beforehand, or did it happen spontaneously at the game? Maybe you realized, You know, you had to decompress. Did that happen after the game, or did you talk to him beforehand?
Wow, I don't really remember that, to be honest with you. It was a long time ago. If I did, I think it was still in the sense of that we were somewhat reflective, I guess. You know, it was still really raw on everyone's mind, and Eddie's a good friend, and we've talked many times about that week. So generally, again, it really was in the same sort of spirit of just wanting to be together and maybe decompressing, as you said, a little bit. It was cathartic to just, you know, play some songs that we both enjoyed, and I'm sure it was in a way, you know, still in a way that we were affected by it. So sometimes you try to revert back to things that you know that bring you some joy and bring you some comfort. So yeah, I always enjoyed that with Eddie, and but I'm sure we talked about it today. Actually, we were on the phone a little bit. So yeah, I mean, he's a good friend. So if that was the case, I'm sure we were just still leaning on each other.
Mike, thank you so much for sharing all these sentiments and the resolve, the strength that you and so many others exhibited on this date 20 years ago and beyond. So thank you again for your time. Thank you to all the other participants for joining us today. And we will return at 5 p.m. for the Louis